That's not my train. Its wheels are too squishy.
Squish, squish, squish.
Squishy wheels. That's not my train. Its windows are too shiny. That's not my train. Its funnel is too rusty.
Hey, it's for bees.
Yeah, there's a little bumblebee flying by that train, isn't there?
It's for bees. It's for bees.
Woo-hoo. That's not my train. Its side is too bumpy.
Bum, bum.
Yeah.
It's gone in. Actually, it's corn. Corn on the cob.
It does kind of look like a piece of corn on the cob. You're right.
Yeah, because corn is
That's
yellow.
not my train. Its roof is too rough.
Well,
Ooh, that is rough.
yeah.
Yeah. That's my train. Its engine is so glossy.
Wait, I do not feel anything. It doesn't feel squishy.
No, it's perfect.
It feels
The end.
smooth. Well, it's not even smooth.
It feels very smooth. Yeah, the end.
It's yellow.
Hey, this book is yellow. It says, I Can Read With My Eyes Shut by Dr. Seuss. You can't read with your eyes shut. You won't be able to see the words, silly. Let's see. I can read in red. I can read in blue. I can read in pickle color too. What color is pickle color?
Green.
Green. I can read in bed and in purple and in brown. I can read in a circle and upside down. That's silly. I can read with my left eye. I can read with my right. I can read Mississippi with my eyes shut tight. I can read them with my eyes shut. That is very hard to do. Mississippi, Indianapolis, and Alleluia too.
Perhaps so silly.
But it's bad for my hat and makes my eyebrows get red hot. So, reading with my eyes shut, I don't do an awful lot. And when I keep them open, I can read with much more speed. You have to be a speedy reader because there's so much to read. You can read about trees and bees and knees on trees and bees on threes. That's silly.
Yeah.
You can read about anchors and all about ants. You can read about ankles and crocodile pants.
Crocodile pants is so sweet.
It's funny. You can read about hoses and how to smell roses and what you should do about owls on noses. Young cat, if you keep your eyes open enough, oh, the stuff you will learn, the most wonderful stuff. You'll learn about fish bones and wishbones. You'll learn about trombones, too. You'll learn about Jake the pillow snake and all about Foo-Foo the snoo. That's an interesting looking character, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's creepy.
It's a little creepy, but it's not real. He's just using his imagination. You can learn about ice. You can learn about mice. Mice on ice. And ice on mice. You can learn about the price of ice. Nice ice for sale, 10 cents a pail. That's so funny.
Yeah.
You can learn about sad and glad and mad. There are so many things you can learn about, but you'll miss the best things if you keep your eyes shut. The more that you read, the more things you will know. The more that you learn, the more places you'll go. You might learn a way to earn a few dollars, or how to make donuts, or kangaroo collars. You can learn to read music and play a hut-zut if you keep your eyes open, but not with them shut. If you read with your eyes shut, you're likely to find that the place you are going is far, far behind.
Hey, there's stop in there. So there's stop.
Yeah, it does say stop. You're right.
And there's no. There's no. What's this one?
Exit.
Exit?
Yep.
No, exit.
Mm-hmm.
And question mark.
Yeah, because
Yes.
they don't know where they're going.
And stop.
And there's the stop sign again.
So they're going to exit.
I'm not sure which way he's going to go. It's kind of looped all around, isn't it?
I think he's going to exit.
Oh dear, that means he won't be able to leave. So, that's why I tell you to keep your eyes wide, keep them wide open, at least on one side.
Mom, I have to go like this.
Yeah, it looks like he's winking, huh? The end. Curious George discovers space. We love Curious George, don't we?
Yeah.
Are you curious about outer space? George is too. Come along and see what's happening at the Space Center. Can you name the planets for me? There's the Sun, Mercury,
Venus, has Jupiter, Saturn, Venus, Uranus, Neptune.
Very good.
There's the other one.
Which one is that one?
Neptune.
Pluto. Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. And there's the little one, we call it Pluto. It's a dwarf planet.
Yeah, and it's very, very far away.
Have you heard about Pluto?
Yeah. It's very, very far away.
It's very far away, yes. And it's very cold because it's so far away from the sun. Professor Wiseman had invited George and his friend, the man with the yellow hat, to the Space Center. Professor Einstein and Professor Pizza needed help to restock the space station with food and supplies. They invited the man with the yellow hat to ride a space shuttle up through Earth's atmosphere into space. Did you know the International Space Station is a spacecraft where astronauts live and do science experiments? The station is as big as a football field, and it orbits Earth. 6 people can live there at once. People from many countries built it and work there together. Oh, thank you for loving me. I love you so much. The man with the yellow hat would enter orbit and pass near the space station to make his delivery. The man would get to experience weightlessness. How would you like to float inside a spaceship?
Not fun. It's scary.
It might be a little different. I don't know if it'd be scary. It would kind of feel like when you jump on the trampoline and you're floating in the air. That's kind of what it would feel like, I think.
Only have you a kid.
If you're a kid, well, adults go up into space. That's what astronauts do. They go up into space all the time. Of course, George was disappointed he wouldn't be able to come along. Did you know that gravity is the force pulling all objects on the surface of the planet toward the center of that planet? If you are far enough away from the planet, you are weightless and float. So gravity is what holds us down onto the ground. Did you know that?
I know.
That's a big word. Say gravity.
Hey, you can't pull me down.
That's right. Like the song I was singing, Defying Gravity. That's right. You can't pull me down. I love you so much.
I love you.
But in order for the man to release the supplies, he needed to be able to push 4 buttons at the same time. The man only had 2 hands. He couldn't do that. But a monkey could. George was thrilled to help. The hungry scientists on the space station would soon have more food to eat. George would also deliver some new supplies to help them with their science experiments. You must launch the payload at exactly the right moment, Professor Einstein said to George. George nodded. He would have to listen to instructions carefully. Do you think that would be hard for one little monkey? He might get distracted. Did you know that payload is another word for cargo? That means the materials that the vehicle is carrying. Liftoff was a success, but then George wanted to look at the supplies. He took some of them out to play, but he couldn't get them back inside quickly enough. George missed the payload launch. He passed right by the space station without sending the supplies. Uh-oh.
You shouldn't play with somebody. It's not his toy.
He should not be playing with that stuff. It's not his. George would have to orbit Earth one more time. Did you know to orbit the Earth means to follow a path in space around our planet? When the spaceship travels, it's like a tug of war between pulling the ship back down to Earth and the speed of the ship going forward. At the right speed and altitude, which means height, the ship can just keep circling the Earth. George, you have enough fuel for one more orbit. You have to get the supplies back to their containers. The next time you pass the station will be the last chance. Then we have to bring you home, warned Professor Wiseman. George was used to cleaning his room. It was good practice for cleaning up the mess in the spaceship. He was ready in time to launch the supplies. Hooray! They made it to the space station. Thank you for the kiss. Did you know that George isn't the first monkey in space? Many kinds of animals have been launched into space and returned safely to Earth. Monkeys, dogs, cats, turtles, butterflies, mice, rabbits, fish, spiders, and more. Animals in space help scientists learn how weightlessness affects living things. That's a lot of different things that have been up there. George had one more task to complete. He had to make it back to the ground safely. To do this, the shuttle had to re-enter Earth's atmosphere at the right moment. Did you know that to land, the shuttle must make a change in direction to slow it down so that it falls back to Earth? The spaceship is coated with material that can handle the heat created as the ship passes through the Earth's atmosphere. The shuttle's shape helps cool it and slow it down. A parachute slows it down as it lands. It was a good thing George listened to the instructions this time. He pulled the lever that controlled the ship's direction. He could now land the ship back at the Space Center. His friends congratulated him on a successful mission. They're very proud of him. They said, "Good job, George. You used your listening ears and did a good job." "On to our next problem," said Professor Pizza once the shuttle mission was over. "We are having trouble with our Mars rover. The controls are getting stuck here at the Space Center. We are worried that when it actually lands on Mars, it will also get stuck on the rocks," added Professor Einstein. A Mars rover is a vehicle specially made for exploring the red planet and sending information back to Earth, the man explained. They're testing the new rover here at the Space Center. Did you know Mars is the 4th planet in our solar system? It is smaller and lighter than Earth. Iron oxide, or rust, gives the soil a reddish color, which is why Mars is also known as the Red Planet. Scientists are interested in knowing all about our next-door neighbor, in the hope that someday people will be able to visit Mars. Would you like to visit Mars someday?
No.
No? I think it'd be kind of cool.
No.
I bet Joey would like to. Joey likes all the planets, doesn't he? Yeah, he does. George was excited to see the launch of the latest Mars rover. He hoped they could figure out this problem together. They sat down around a table to talk and plan. The man asked, "Since Mars has lower gravity than Earth, is it possible the problem wouldn't even happen there?" Professor Pizza agreed. "That's certainly possible. If the pull of Earth's gravity is causing the sticking, it might not stick on Mars's low gravity." "With lower gravity on Mars, you could lift 3 times more there," said Professor Wiseman. "If the rover sticks, maybe we can get it going again by giving it a good push." George imagined how strong he would be on Mars. "So if you can carry 1 chair on Earth, you could carry 3 chairs on Mars. That's crazy." Did you know that our first close-up look at Mars was in 1976? NASA sent 2 spacecraft, Viking 1 and Viking 2, to send back pictures of the planet's surface. Scientists learned about the air on Mars and its rocks and landscape. Even after many more missions to Mars, they are still studying the Viking data. With all the people talking, George fell asleep. He dreamed he was going to be the first monkey headed to Mars. In his dream, Professor Wiseman told him, "It's an important mission, George. If the rover sticks, your job is to give it a good push." The man was going on the space mission with George. How lucky! When the ship finally landed on Mars, George was sitting on top of the Mars rover. When it was released, he went with it. The rover bounced along the surface of the red planet. George was on a runaway vehicle. Did you know it currently takes 8 months for a spaceship to reach Mars, which is one of Earth's closest neighboring planets? It takes only a few days to reach the moon. Which would you rather explore? If you could go to space, would you rather go to the moon or to Mars?
I think both.
You think both? If you had to pick one, which one would you pick?
I think both.
Both. I don't know. Seeing the moon would be pretty cool.
Yeah, and you can't even jump so high.
You have to be careful. You don't jump too high. You go floating away. Lucky for George, he found the remote that controlled the rover. He was able to slow down the rover. Phew! He also had a book about the Mars terrain. Now he could explore Mars. George rolled up to a very deep, very wide valley that looked like the Grand Canyon, only much larger. The book told him it was called the Valles Marineris. Did you know the Valles Marineris is more than 2,500 miles long? That's almost the length of the United States. The canyon is 120 miles wide and about 26,000 feet deep. Wow. George also found the Olympus Mons, the highest volcano in our solar system. It had a great view. He wished his friend could enjoy it too. At least George could see where his rocket had landed. He began to drive the rover back toward the spaceship. Did you know the Olympus Mons is 16 miles high, 3 times the height of Mount Everest? But that's when the rover got stuck. George opened the panel and discovered great big globs of green gum were clogging up the controls. No wonder it keeps sticking. Luckily, in the low gravity of Mars, George was able to use his super strength to pick up the vehicle and carry it back to the ship. Did you know the names of the Mars rovers have been Sojourner, which means traveler, Opportunity, Spirit, and Curiosity? Isn't Curiosity a good name for a Mars rover for George? What would you name your own Mars rover?
I think Pikachu.
Pikachu? I think I would name it Serenity. Because I like the show Firefly. It's one of the best shows ever made, ever. It's a good show for Mom and Dad to watch. That was when George woke up from his dream. Now he knew why the real Mars rover controls were getting stuck. He remembered Professor Einstein throwing his gum away in the control room. George led the scientists right to the control panel, gummed up with green chewing gum. Professor Einstein had been using the rover control system as a trash bin by accident. Oops, the professor said. Do you think the Mars rover was able to launch after all? After the control panel had been cleaned? Of course! It was a good thing monkeys are dreamers, the man said. George agreed. He had many dreams as big as the one about traveling to Mars. The end.